All right, everyone, it's time to begin the next topic, which is about GIFT IFSC transforming cross-border payment ecosystem. And for the same, I would request the moderator, Mr. Supriyo Bhattacharjee, Chief General Manager, Department of Banking, International Financial Services Centers Authority. Let's have a huge round of applause for him. Up next, I would request speakers to join on the stage, Mr. Akash Arun, founder and CEO at Glomo Pay. Mr. Joshy, Chief Technology Officer, International Financial Services Center Authority. Let's have a huge round of applause for him. And Mr. Movin Jain, founder and CTO at Skydo. Requesting the moderator to kindly begin the session.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction and welcome to all of you. Let me start with by addressing the question which may be in all of your minds: how come a regulator is moderating a session? Yeah, so the answer is it is a bit of circumstance, and then we found that that would be the best way to do it as well. So that's what we are, and IFSCA is a different kind of a regulator. Joseph would agree. So we wanted to ensure that the right questions are asked, at least. So that's where the idea is. We will start. I mean, how many of you have a good idea about what Gift City or IFSC is? I mean, okay, very few. I mean, the usual suspects I can see know about it. But just for others, those who may not know it that well. So in the interest of time, so Gift City can be considered as a place which is geographically within India, right? However, for every other purpose, and mainly for the foreign exchange purposes, it is a place outside India. So that's the basic difference. So transactions in Gift City are not allowed in INR. You cannot transact in INR in Gift City. You have to transact in foreign currency. And I hope, since many of you are here, I would assume that you are from the cross-border payments fraternity in some form or the other. And you can then see the benefit of doing cross-border transactions in GIFT IFSC essentially stems from that the foreign exchange leg of a cross-border transaction is something which Indian fintechs have always had to rely on others. It could be other fintechs, it could be banks. However, today with GIFT IFSC, you have a place just next door to Bombay, next door to Delhi, which is where you can do these transactions, have more control over the foreign exchange part of the transaction, and you can set up partnerships with other fintechs, which gives you a very good pipeline for undertaking transactions. And luckily, even RBI has made certain changes in its guidelines, which allows now Indian exporters, for example. A lot of you are into collection for exporters. Now Indian exporters can open accounts in foreign jurisdictions, including IFSC. There is an added advantage in opening the account in IFSC where you can keep the money for 3 months instead of 1 month in other places. So that's the I think the advantage that we see. So that's all about IFSC. We can have conversation later on. Happy to have give more details about you, but that's where we come from, and that's the basic advantage. Let me start with the introduction. I'll introduce myself. I am CGM looking after banking and payments in IFSC. Formerly, I was with RBI for 20 years in various capacities, and I actually came to IFSC to set up the banking and the payments area, and I've stayed back here. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, sir. I am Akash Arun. I'm the founder and CEO of Glomo Pay, or Glomo for short. We're a cross-border payments platform where we, under our authorization given by IFSCA, we can issue payment accounts. We can accept money on behalf of our merchants that we acquire in the payment account. We can disperse the payment from the payment account to the vendors. And we enable most of the local payment methods across the geos wherever we are active. So that's us.
Good afternoon. I'm Joseph Joshy. I'm a CGM and CTO at IFSCA. This is the first time I have a colleague sitting on the other side asking questions to me. Probably it has never happened before, but then so exciting to be here. Before this, I was one of the co-founders of Reserve Bank IT, Ribbit, the IT subsidiary of RBI. And before that, I was with IDMNC working out of US, Canada and Mexico. Here, pretty excited to be in this panel because cross-border is the very nature of the IFSC. The IFSC is supposed to connect India with the global supply chain because of the very nature. And that's why this is going to be an interesting panel for me as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Movin. I'm a co-founder of Skydo. We are a RBI-regulated payment aggregator cross-border in India, helping Indian merchants receive global payments. We've also applied in GIFT City to be regulated under the payment services regulations. The intention is to keep serving Indian merchants through the new facilities that we have available in GIFT City.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have one license holder. We have somebody who runs our Fintech sandbox. I think that you missed that. And then we have Movin, who is an applicant. And if he tells good about us in the panel, we might give him an authorization. So the heat is on you. So let me start with Akash. Then you were the first recipient of the first authorization under the PSP framework. And so there were other conventional choices that Glomo Pay could have had, either in terms of jurisdiction or the kind of authorization that you could have got. What made you choose this framework over the other ones? Yeah.
For sure. So one is that thank you for granting that license. It really accelerated everything that you wanted to do. When we started out, both of us, my co-founder and I, we come from the payments background. We have both worked in multiple markets, both in the Southeast Asian region, the Western region. And we wanted some of the capabilities that are permitted in licenses and in those jurisdictions, right? So we were evaluating all those conventional methods. Our key focus has always been India. And how do we enable money movement, or how do we build the infrastructure for money movement capability, which is also compliance first, right? So the license was always in our mind. Second is the key capabilities that we can get from the license was also something that we were evaluating. Fortunately, we interacted, sir, and very thanks to you and Joseph, sir, before the PSP regulations were out. We interacted once and we got to learn about some of the forward-sightedness of the regulators, which gave us a lot of confidence on the kind of partnership we can have within the jurisdiction and how we can work over here. Now, when as a startup, we start in a particular jurisdiction, we would always, or we try to get a first mover advantage. Right? We also, as a cross-border payment, would want to work, payment provider, we also want to work with regulators very closely so that we can come up with use cases which is more accurate to the ecosystem so that you are building for the jurisdiction and not some of the use cases that you are thinking about, right? Now, two things that really shined. One was, so the entire jurisdiction is International Financial Services Center, which is very accurate for cross-border payment provider who is focused on moving money across border. It's international, it's financial services. We're a payment infrastructure, which means that our direct consumers are from the BFSI industry. It's a financial services, so just made sense for us. And the biggest factor is, sir, how we can work with the regulators to come up with, or brainstorm and then come up with ideas that can accelerate the innovation that we are doing, honestly.
Right, so just can you give an example of something that you could do from IFSC, and you are actually doing from IFSC, which would have been difficult, if not impossible, to do it from onshore? I mean, just one example, just to buttress what you said.
I think there are many examples that we are doing at the moment, and we couldn't have been doing
But just maybe one
Sure.
particular
So
thing.
one of the key value proposition that we looked at was payment account issuance, which we could do freely, and the second one is cross-border money transfer that we can also do freely. store value, providing that store value is a superpower when you are thinking about regulations across the world. Mainland, I think, doesn't allow that. And second is cross-border money transfer. You have to always participate with a AD1 bank, so there's not complete independence which is given, which helps us give that, or gives us flexibility to innovate and work within the regulatory framework to innovate and then expand on the use cases.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Moving on to you. You actually have an in-principle approval for PSEB from RBI, so you are well covered as far as the onshore part is concerned. Then why? What made you move for application to IFSCA for PSP authorization, and how, in your opinion, is there whether those two authorizations can complement each other, and if you could give a few examples of how you think it can do that.
Definitely. I think if I speak chronologically from the time we started Skydo, I had not heard of Gift City on the day we started the company. I also at that point PACB did not exist. It was OPGSP which we got approval for and launched Skydo. We were also slowly learning about what are the different things that we will need to do in order to achieve the kind of offering that we need to provide to merchants. And in that came across Gift City as part of the journey. And I think the first time visited Gift City in 2023, if I remember correctly, and were impressed by the forward-looking stance that everybody there who we met had. Everybody was thinking about innovating and not about regulating. While I'm sure regulation was, always something that was back of the mind, but the question was always, what can we do here, or what needs to be done here, and not, what are the rules? How do we, stop people from doing 10 things? Of course, it's also because Gift City is much newer, and as a jurisdiction is still in the early phase of innovation. So we were really impressed and felt like, if there is something we can do here, we should. A few months later, PACB license got announced by RBI, and we were one of the first applicants for that. But this Gift City idea remained in our minds, and then I think payment services regulation came shortly after PACB regulation, if I remember correctly. And we really enjoyed reading that regulation and felt like, we used to always think that Singapore is kind of gold standard when it comes to, clean and simple payment regulations that allow you to do a lot of things without, having restrictions around what's the reason for money movement, or where is the money coming from, or how long will the money be kept in a certain account, and so on, and what are the different ways in which you can move money. So I think that regulation was really tempting, and since then we've had our eyes on, is there something we can do with this? As we kept building our offering, and then we eventually got the in-principle authorization from RBI, we got the confidence that now we can step out of India and start doing more things. Even as a company, we've been evolving, got a larger team, and so on. And we could clearly see a few use cases which, being only in India, we were not able to fully support. As a cross-border payments company, there is a lot that you need to do within the country, but there's also equally a lot that needs to be done outside the country. So RBI regulations allow us to do a lot of those things inside India, but before the money comes into India, or after the money leaves India in case of outward use case, there's a lot more heavy lifting that needs to be done. There are partnerships that need to be created. Money needs to be held in certain accounts. Liquidity management needs to be done. Currency conversion needs to be done. So all of those things, we were facing huge challenges doing it from our Indian entity, because obviously the Indian ecosystem will first prioritize domestic use cases and then only think about cross-border. And so it kind of became a natural synergy that Gift City was born with this requirement in mind. So I think it was just the natural next step, and it became obvious for us. So we then visited IFSCA again and got their views on what we were thinking specifically, and got the idea that this is going to work, and that's when we put in our application. I think it's been about 3 months now.
Great. Thanks for that, Movin. Coming to Joseph. Actually, to be honest, I should say he is actually the father of payments in IFSC, because the first payments application actually was a sandbox entity, and they needed an exit. And the whole PSP authorization, the framework came from a need to give them an exit and give them a viable business, because they didn't find any authorization. Well, they could have gone to Canada or US or UK, and we felt that this is a need we need to fulfill. So you have handled the sandbox of IFSC for the last 4 years, and can you give us maybe some interesting proposals that you have handled? Maybe payments, may not be payments, but generally that you have come across and from Indian companies which you would like to share.
Certainly. So as you rightly said, as part of my responsibilities, yes, Fintech Sandbox is there. Also, we take care of supervision of some entities, which is the financial support services, and also certain technology things. So it's a very different mix, right? One end, as you rightly said, innovation. Other end, I'm doing supervision. So the regulator mindset can also give insight into what are the challenges the industry is facing. You get to see both sides of the coin. In our journey, the way it started was Honorable FM making a statement, we need a fintech hub in GIFT City, GIFT IFSC. So we came up with a framework and we put our heads together. The challenge was we are a unified regulator. So when we worked in RBI, it was only focused on banking. But being unified, I need to have a framework which cuts across banking, capital markets, insurance, pension funds, whatever, the whole lot. So when we looked around, we didn't find any framework like that, across regulators. So it was like, we did not want to deep dive. Say, for example, P2P lending. That itself is an area where I can go deep. But when I'm a unified regulator covering major verticals, right? So it becomes very challenging. So the team put their heads together, and that's where we coined a term called TechFin. I don't know how many of you know it. So we said FinTech and TechFin. Because we felt many of the companies were in the TechFin area than a FinTech. But for cross-border payments, it's FinTech. So simple logic is, if you're handling customer funds, you're doing financial part processes as core, using tech, then you're a FinTech. But if you're a technology company doing things for a financial institution, you become a TechFin. This was also appreciated by the FATF and other large bodies, because what we have done by this is we have kind of done a better job in risk management. So if you're a cross-border fintech, the kind of checks and balances I have will be at a much higher degree because you're moving customer funds. Whereas for a TechFin, I can have a very low level of supervision or regulation parameters or standards because you're not really touching the risk of what we think is a high risk. As you know, regulators usually look at 2-3 things: market integrity, financial stability, customer protection. So that's the angle it came in. So once we launched this framework, we started getting applications. The first wave had RegTech, AI companies. Very interesting use cases started coming in. But then we said that TechFin will satisfy all of those because they are technology companies doing things for financial institutions. Then out of the blue, the cross-border payment stuff started coming in. So remember, at that time, we didn't even have a payments system services division. There was no payments division here in IFSC. There's no regulation, but it's a sandbox. So we are a regulator. You have regulatory sandbox and innovation sandbox. So we started getting applications. Very interesting applications came. The standard models came using Swift, pre-funding. Then came people with tokens and blockchain, right? And then as a speaker, I'm not supposed to use some words here. So, you guess what I'm talking about. So a lot of amazing such proposals came. So some of it we could permit, some we cannot because the sovereign had a clear direction. But it was very interesting to see the way things were going. Additionally, we also got, I think that time it was JP Morgan with the Onyx system. They rebranded it. They also came into a sandbox trying to do deposit tokenization and move funds, seamlessly and things like that, which was also a very good experiment which happened at that point in time. And then some other interesting things which came was in the areas of, we had included space tech and quantum tech, right? This was in 2022. So the people were asking me, why space tech here? in an IFSC. So essentially, the US space tech, what they were doing is taking the geospatial intelligence about satellites and giving it to an insurance company so that they can better underwrite the satellite insurance. So it's a tech for the financial institution. So we had some very interesting use cases like that. But one thing from the payments perspective which we got was a couple of companies doing escrow. We found that there was value in it, and once the payment services were getting an exit, even the escrow guys were coming for an exit, that's the time we gave the feedback to Supriyo ji and our earlier chairperson to create this division for payments, create regulations. So in fact, if you look at their regulations, they have something for escrow also, yes, which is also very unique. You would not have seen an escrow, but all of those were lessons which we learned from the sandbox. That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I've not been involved in too many sandboxes, but this is one sandbox experiment which has actually reached its logical conclusion, where it has started as an experiment, the learnings have been understood, created in the form of a framework, and actually licensed. So that's something I think in IFSC we are very proud of the whole process, how it has played out. Akash, now, so you're on already, you have started your business, and so can you give the audience a few use cases that you have solved or you're proposing to solve for resident businesses or users, if I might use the term? And I know you have also had a very few interesting partnerships that you have entered into. Could you give us an overview of how are you helping Indian residents and how the partnerships have come across?
So resident Indians, right?
Yeah, Indian business. It could be businesses, okay, it could be individuals. It depends on, yeah.
So I think, so we are a little different from what Movin does, of course. Not little, we are quite different from what Movin does. We are the infrastructure point of things, and Movin has done a very good job in solving the front-end facing kind of a problem. So we are focused onto 3 use cases. One is, of course, BFSI is the biggest consumer when we talk about infrastructure, because we like to work in a distribution model. We don't like to go ahead and acquire merchants directly. For instance, I'll work with the B2B marketplace in India to help them embed the financial services which we can give onto their platform as a regulated institution, right? So that is one of the key interest areas where we are supporting some of the B2B marketplaces to embed the payment solution that we can give.
Sorry, if I might interject. Can you just spell it out? What when you say a B2B marketplace, what exactly is the solution you're providing?
For sure. So B2B marketplaces where a lot of exporters would come and they would sell their raw materials or textiles or those kind of goods, right? Now, when it comes to a marketplace provider, they are providing an interface where buyers would come, they will buy these products, and the transaction will happen. However, there is a payment leg involved to it whenever the purchase is made. So we facilitate those payments which is required to then complete the transaction and the compliance filing for the exporter on behalf of the exporter. We like to embed our solutions into those marketplaces rather than acquiring the merchants directly. So,
please.
So that's one. Second is we are from Gift City and we are for Gift City. I live in Gift City to understand the ecosystem better and then the problems that the entire ecosystem is facing, and then solve or build the accurate solution over there. I think retail is a very big use case which has been coming up in Gift City. Retail for insurance, retail for capital market is something that we solve for. Now, when we say retail, there are 2 sides of the equation. Inbound, wherein the funds are coming from NRIs or non-residents into Gift City, say funds, brokers, insurance providers, etc. Now, when retail users are transacting, and they are seeing an instruction to send SWIFT transaction, it becomes a point of abandoning the cart or abandoning the purchase, right, which we have seen. So we enable a lot of alternate payment methods in multiple jurisdictions. So say, for instance, we'll enable a local payment rail in US, EU, UK, Singapore, Australia, etc., right? So we do that for inbound funds. And we also partner for resident Indians who want to then invest in overseas market. So very recently, sir, as part of the Investor Week, India Annex has launched their global access product, where it is powered by ViewTrade and the payments is powered by Glomo Pay. This is where one of the part of the question was the interesting partnership that we have been able to crack. We have been able to integrate directly with the top 81 banks in India and across the world to then understand what is and we position ourselves as a compliance first organization. We cannot solve payments without solving the compliance. Right? So we understand what the bank requires from a compliance angle. We try to build the accurate solution with the bank to make that entire transaction very seamless. And this is where resident Indians investing outside is something which we have enabled as a payment layer, where you can just enable or remit the funds on the screen within 5 clicks. So that's another use case which we have enabled. Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's really the advantage that any payments company will have in IFSC, is that the leg of where you need to connect with foreign entities becomes much easier. Because I forgot to tell you, your status, the company that is opened in IFSC, its status under FEMA changes from a resident to a non-resident. So all your transactions from IFSC to rest of the world is outside the FEMA restrictions. So that's another big advantage. So then your partnerships, your payments to rest of the world becomes very smooth, and that's really then can be used to provide services to entities in Gift City. Yeah. And there is a big chunk of entities in Gift City which also needs payment services, which was not there maybe 3 years back. And also to the resident entities who need cross-border services. Yeah.
I think so, and just extending that fact, 2 minutes, over here, by the execution, by the virtue of it, the solution, you would see that we have been able to reduce the time from 3 days to nearly instant. And the cost of the transaction has been reduced by almost 66% now in practice that we are moving the money. So all those things also increases the top line of the businesses who are there in Gift City.
Thanks, Akash. Movin, coming back to you, so can you, given you straddle both the jurisdictions, right? You know the Indian regulations, you know the IFSC regulations. Can you give me maybe 1 or 2 changes in either of the regulations, or maybe both, which can really make this, make the process of cross-border payments or receipts smooth?
Sure. I think I'll try to answer this question first from a customer requirement angle, and then come to what regulatory changes might be required. I think what I'm seeing and what Skydo is seeing right now is a lot of our merchants. So today we support export payments for them. So if you want to receive money from a client in the US, then you can receive it via Skydo. However, for a company that's operating in global markets, which means they have some clients outside India, but they're not large enough to set up offices or subsidiaries in different countries, they mostly have their staff in India, maybe 1 or 2 people outside India to help them distribute their solution to customers. That's the kind of company that we typically have as a merchant. So for them, it's not just receiving export payments or receiving current account payments. There's a lot many other use cases also that they need to do. For example, sending money out, managing some treasury abroad, because often when you make money abroad, you also need to pay somebody abroad who helped you get that customer, or somebody who supplied raw material to you, and so on. So I think all of those use cases today are still, I think there is a lot of friction, given that the way RBI's regulations work is for current account payments, there is PACB, which also thankfully now is current account payments, and earlier it was only export and import. So now the definition has been slightly widened, which is great. I think my wish is that over time there is scope to widen it further to say all kinds of payments and not just current account payments. I think there are a lot of startups in India who receive investor funds from abroad. So even FDI type of transactions can then be managed. According to me, and from my understanding, of course, you are the expert, sir, but according to me, this does not require any significant change on the Gift City side in terms of regulations, but it does require significant change from RBI's point of view. And I know that it cannot be done in a day. It is something which we have to gradually progress towards, but hopefully companies like Skydo can establish enough trust with the regulatory ecosystem to for us to be able to move in that direction over the next 2-3 years.
Great. So the problem is with RBI, so we can conclude. So you're getting our license. Joseph, we are almost out of time. Again, let me mine your experience in Sandbox. One of the major challenges of cross-border payments is cyber theft and fraud. Given your background in Rebit and your experience in the Sandbox, how have you seen some solutions which actually help people like Akash and Movin in the areas of preventing cyber frauds and threats?
Yeah, so in fact, when the governor at that point in time, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, had the vision of setting up the IT subsidiary for RBI, cybersecurity was one of the key drivers which he saw. And today, I think that organization is about 1,100 people strong, like in the last 9+ years. So see, when you look at cybersecurity, what we saw 8-10 years back and what's happening today, the entire landscape has changed. Threats, the vectors are changed, the sophistication, again, at the next level. So it's a moving target. But then when you look at the sandbox, right, here we are trying to balance innovation along with security and, of course, regulation. So what it means is we have different types of sandboxes. So when you're coming into an innovation sandbox, what we do is we let you play with a very novel concept, but with test data. So at that point, I don't insist a lot on security from a regulatory side, but there should be security by design, okay? Because we want to test that innovation. But when we graduate to the next level of getting into a regulatory sandbox, so that's when you get live customers, live transactions going on. So we at least mandate a minimum of a VAPT, like a vulnerability assessment penetration testing. That is something which we definitely mandate because there is some things at stake. But then the common things, PCI DSS, SOC 2, the whole lot is there. And now with DPDP coming in, I'm sure the cross-border payments will have to balance multiple, compliances, GDPR on one side, DPDP, all those things. But I think the key is, since the sophistication and things have changed with AI, they should use AI as their partner as well to kind of fight this back, because that's the way the game is changing. And in our framework, we also have, under the TechFin, as I was mentioning earlier, cybersecurity and quantum are part of it. So we have players coming in with cybersecurity solutions. Even I saw some very interesting solutions for the Web3 ecosystem, which people are trying to bring in. And so all of these solutions are going to be there, but at the same time, the fundamentals is where we need to be very focused. Screening, transaction screening, all those basic things are there, plus the fundamentals, first principles are non-negotiable, because as I said, this is going to be a moving target. So probably with that, I should hand it back to you. We have another 3 seconds.
Yeah, I know we're almost out of time. Can I take one? Okay, no.
No, sir.
I'm being strictly told not to take any questions. So thanks, all of you. We are available here for conversations, and please feel free to visit our website. There's a lot of information there about the entire IFSC ecosystem. And thank you again. And thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for an engaging session, and I would request you to kindly step ahead for a group picture.